In this tutorial, we will be covering the basic syntax of C++, the basic function that appears in every C++ program. In every C++ program, there is this hashtag include IOS string. And what this does is, if you see a line beginning with a hashtag, it's called a preprocessor. So what this does is, when the program starts to load, when the computer starts to read the program, it grabs every line that starts with a hashtag and then it pre-processes those lines first. So it's kind of like getting your instruments before you start working, or setting up your ingredients before you start cooking. So what this does is, it gets the things that are needed to run this program. So you just know that you include this in every line, in every program that you're writing. And now, for now, I'll delete this one. I'll talk about it later. And so after that, we have the int main function, and this is how to define functions in C++. We'll talk about them into details later on. Don't mind right now if you don't get a grasp of it. So this is what we are just doing. I'll go ahead and delete this as well. And so this is what we call a function. You just have this int main, and then you have these brackets here where you put your parameters, and you have these curly brackets where you put the contents of your function. So this is the basic syntax of the function. And what the function was doing was that in this curly brackets, there was some information inside. So you have these curly brackets here, and we are going to put information inside. So over here, it's where we'll be writing our program, what we want the function to do. And in every function, there's a return statement. Over here, we are returning a 0. Don't mind right now if you don't get the concept, or you get it later on when we talk about functions. In every line, most lines of C++ end with a semicolon. So remember that you write the return statement with a semicolon. And we'll get used to that later on as we write many programs. Okay, so over here is where the content of the program really comes in. So I'll just create more space so that we write what we want the function to do when we call it. So the syntax is std semicolon semicolon cout, and then you have two less than signs, and then you write whatever you want to do. And the basic program every beginner writes, it's hello program, hello world program, hello world, right, with a semicolon to end it. Remember, you have to end it with a semicolon. So we write this hello world. So remember, the syntax is std two semicolon cout, and then you have a hello world, right? So we run this program and we see the output. And when we run it, we see a hello world displayed over here. So what we just did was we created a hello world program. Good. Let's go ahead and print the second line, std semicolon semicolon cout, and we have two less than signs, and we have let's say hey there, I am taking a C++ tutorial, right? So let me just create a space here so we see it organized. And don't forget the semicolon over there. And when I forget to put in the semicolon and we run it to see what happens, let's run it to see. Over here we use build and run, right? I'll explain that in a bit. So build and run, and we see over here that error expected semicolon before return. That's line 6. Yeah, so you can see the red line over there. So we go over here and then we put in the semicolon there, and then we build and run again. And now we see a hello world. Hey there, I am learning a C++ tutorial. And you can see over here that they are joined, right? Good. So what we can do over here is to include what we call end line. So before the end line, you bring in two less than signs, end line, just like that. Then a semicolon ends it, and we run this again. We build and run. Note that we build and run. And now we see an error here, line 5, and it says that end line was not declared in this scope. Did you mean Okay. I get it. So over here we can't use end line right now because I'll be talking about the concept later on. Now you can see that if you want to print several of these lines, you have to keep writing. You have to keep writing std semicolon semicolon, right? C out, and then your code, right? But then in C++, you have a simpler way, and that line that I deleted earlier is what I wanted you to take note of. You can use this line using namespace, namespace std with a semicolon to end it. And now what you can do over here is that I'll just delete this line. What you can do over here is that you can clear out all this std semicolon semicolon, right? And then you just start it with C out, two less than signs, and then hello world. So this is going to run it the same way because we have used this line over here, so we don't have to keep using std semicolon semicolon again and every time. We just started with C out. So we build and run this program and we see the output, and we see that we have the same output, hello world, hey there, I am taking a C++ tutorial. Good. And then this shows the time, return 0, execution time was 4.272 seconds. Press any key to continue. Let's just close this. And so this is it. Now with this line, we can then use the end line that I was talking about. So we have two less than signs and then ENDL. It means end line. So we run this program again and see what happens. And when we run it, we see over here that the hello world line was separated from the hey there, I am taking a C++ tutorial. So that's how to separate lines. You can, by including this line, then you use this end line statement. And remember, before you can use this end line statement, you have to precede it with two less than signs, right? So if we want to add a third line, we can have a C out, two less than signs, and then how are you? How are you? Question mark, right? And then we have a semicolon over there. We run it, we build and run, sorry. I'll explain that in a bit. And we see they are over here as well, joined tutorial and how are you. So we just come over here and then we add the two less than signs and then end line ENDL, right? So we, in this case, I want to show you something. So let's just run it. When we run it, we still see that the lines are joined, right? Even though we added the E and D L. Let me cancel it. So over here, you see that we've added the E and D L. So we expected this line to be to be different from this line. Like they should be on different lines. But when we run it, note when we run it, we get that it's still joined. So the running command displays what was the previous build and run that you did. It shows that um, output, not the current one after the changes. So the last output that we built and ran was this one where they were joined. But after the changes, we have to build and run. So let's build and run for the changes to take effect. So after building and running, we see that the changes have taken effect and the lines have now been separated. So we have how are you over here below, hey there, I'm taking a C++ tutorial. Good. So then that's the difference between the build and the run. The build and run takes current effects that you just made into account and then affects them in the output. But the run command just displays the most recent previous output. I hope I'm making sense over there. Okay, so that's the basic syntax of C++, and so you can have line spaces over here. They don't really matter. So I'll just go ahead and delete the space and delete the space and delete all these spaces. They don't really matter over there. Sorry. So we build and run, and we see that the output is still the same, right? So we just close it. So you can have spaces, and in C++ it doesn't really matter. Indentation doesn't really matter. So we can have this indented and we can have this back, and you can have this inside. You can have this inside, and when we build and run, we still get the same output. So indentation really doesn't matter, but to make it readable and organized, it is advisable that you keep your code indented. Yeah, in C++, but it doesn't really matter. So that's the basic syntax and a basic program in C++ that we have just written. One thing I would quickly like to add before we proceed is what we call comments in C++. So comments are simply lines of code that are meant for the user. They are meant for a human. So in most cases, programs take tons of lines of code. So you can have thousands and thousands of lines of code. And when you want to review your code, or when you want another person to review your code, it's really important that you include comments so that they'll be reading through and see what's really happening. So over here, I can just include a comment, and how to include a comment is by using two forward slashes. And so writing anything here means that it's for the user, it's for the human, and the computer really does not take account of those. It doesn't run it. So what I can do over here is to add a comment that this function prints out two, I think three statements, right? So that's what that the function does. So I'll go ahead and run the program, so you can see that it really doesn't take comments into account. So you can see that we still have the same output as before. So that is how to add comments, and this is what we call a single line comment. You precede it with two forward slashes, and then you write whatever you want on the same line that the backslashes have started. When you come down and keep writing, it's not really going to take effect because it has not begun with two forward slashes. So it only applies on a single line. So if I want to add a second comment, I just do this and then add a second comment, right? I can also come over here and then add a comment between lines that this line prints hey there, hey there, right? So that's what this line does. And I can come over here after this line to add that this line prints how are you, right? So I can do this as well, and it really doesn't matter. You can include a comment after a line, you can include it before a line, you can virtually include it anywhere. Yeah, anywhere, even before the program starts, we can include a comment there. The computer will just ignore it and then run whatever we want. So let's go ahead and build and run this program to see the output. And we see that we still have the same output as before. Yeah, so that's what we call single line comments. Now, what if I want to write multiple lines? I can use these backslashes, and write all this, but it really doesn't make it nice and presentable. So what C++ does is that I can delete all of these backslashes, right? I can delete all of them, and then it allows me to comment all of them out at once. I don't have to write them one by one. So using multi-line comments, this is the format: forward slash and then a star, and then you write whatever you want here, and then you close it with a star backslash, or is it forward slash? Yeah, forward slash, sorry. So this is the format. So I'll just copy this, I'll cut it, sorry, and then paste it at the end of the line that I want. Paste it over here, and 1 2 3 4 5, and all of these have been commented out. So all these lines come within the two beginning and ending of the comment. So all those ones have been commented out. And you see that if I cut this and then come and paste it at the end, it comments out everything. So when we run this program, nothing is going to appear, right? So even we have an error over here. So undefined reference to win min and all of that, so we can do this. So I will just cut this and then paste it at the end of my comment. I can paste it here as well, really doesn't matter, and I can leave a ton of space before I paste it. As far as it's still on the same line, it really doesn't matter, but it's advisable to keep it close to the line so you can really keep track of things. So I bring it close, and I usually um, put this in on a separate line so that I can see it clearly. So this is what we call multi-line comments. And so this is the basic syntax of a C++ program. That is, so what we learned in this video is a basic syntax of C++. You include these two lines, yeah, in every C++ program that you'll be writing. And then this int main function comes in every C++ program. And this is where you really get to tell the computer what you want to do, and you will have comments, multi-line and single line comments as well. So that's the takeaway from this video.